Hey, what's good, everybody? Wow, it has been some time since I've been on here. As I mentioned earlier, I've been a little bit busy, with work and life, as most of us are, or I'm assuming the age demographic of people that watch this are in their 20s and 30s, or older or younger, whichever. But yeah, sometimes life takes us on pretty wild rides, and I'm still trying to get back into the hang of things. So thank you all for still hanging around, watching the content. Those that are new that have kind of discovered this video. So I expect this to be not a huge stream, not too many people coming in to see, but I do like to still keep this updated. And of course, I've kind of made a promise to myself that I try to push content every month just to continue with, keeping IP relevant in the YouTube sphere. So again, welcome to everyone that's tuned in and welcome to More as well. More, thank you for joining us.
Dude, thank you for inviting me. This is so nice. I love your podcast. I love that you're always trying to, enlighten people with your knowledge, your guests. I feel very special that you would contact me to do this. And I can't wait to get into this really nice topic. But I don't want to like rush us or anything, but this topic of AI and how it's really, making an impact on our world. I just can't wait to talk about this, and especially how it's how we think it might impact indigenous communities, south and north.
Yeah, definitely. AI is continue to play a very large, important part in everyone's life. And as the years go by, it's going to become more common for us to see AI in our workplace, in our house, in the car. Where could I begin? So yeah, for the past few years now, AI, people are starting to catch on and kind of understand like where's AI's role in our life. As you see in like the news and YouTube videos, we see self-driving cars, we see completely autonomous systems, on the internet. Whether if that's maybe if AI is developing a script for us, if it has to do with coding, we see a lot of jobs being taken by AI as well. So the world is changing. It's a lot different than when I was a young kid. Um, so essentially, kind of what Moore said, we're gonna discuss like the importance of AI. What are we seeing today? How is it affecting us in YouTube? We have some content, well, some information we want to share in terms of like what did we use AI for today. Um, but I think the main thing, more is what I've learned is that AI has certainly taken its role on, as I said before, a lot of jobs. Uh, I think as time goes on, we'll start to see AI take a lot of jobs that how should I just say this that don't that require not as much skill with mathematics, science, a lot of like computer information work. For example, if you look in a lot of streets in big cities, right, you see a lot of like autonomous, machine like cleaners, cleaning the streets. You're starting to see a lot more AI in, as cashiers in McDonald's. You don't need as many cashiers, and even in grocery stores as well. So AI is there too. So the you know AI replacement of humans for these jobs is slowly approaching, and as time goes on, we'll start to see more jobs being taken by AI. Whether that goes into accounting, even into teaching, which is scary. um, so yeah, it's a lot to discuss, but I think this is an important topic to talk about because again, it's going to affect our daily lives. More maybe, you live in California where, you're not far away from, Silicon Valley, I would say. So perhaps you've seen more of this common, um, you know, issue that's happening. And I would say issue, but just norm, I guess you could say this new normal where, you see more robotics and AI taking place, perhaps, in other cities in California where you're at.
Thank you, Marcus. I want to preface by saying that by no means I am a connoisseur or an expert on this topic. The things that I will talk about are just, things that I found out through YouTube videos, and but these YouTube videos uh, display, professionals and people who have been in the game for a while. So this stream, if anything, is just exploring those ideas. I'm not necessarily claiming that I'm an expert or things like that. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to say that, but something that I've noticed through the videos that I've been watching is how quickly AI is developing. Some people are quite scared because of the potential in terms of job replacement, misinformation that it could potentially have on our society. But other people are quite, you know, enthusiastic about the future in terms of what it will do, in terms of medicine, science, mathematics, um, and other kinds of jobs. In education, mostly in education, like the potential for to better those areas. The thing is that it's AI is developing so quickly that people are unable to kind of foreshadow its development. It's just happening at such a rapid speed that it's going to transform things quite quickly. And I think that what the videos want to convey is that people should be ready for this sort of uh, I don't know if it's a change or realignment but it's or a shift, but uh, AI will make itself more ubiquitous in our society. For example, we can see that uh, the development of agents, meaning AI agents specifically made for certain tasks. For example, in medicine, agents who can read and identify patterns of cancer patients, and looking at their images like their CAT scan or any type of X-ray or test results, they can identify patterns and try to predict if a patient will be infected with a virus or have cancer or things like that. So being able to predict that faster than human beings can, being able to process so much information and so much data, which a human being will probably take, I don't know, a year, months. AI can do it like in a day or in hours or minutes or even seconds. Uh, so in that sense, I think it's quite positive how AI can help us. But there are also some really negative aspects of um, of what AI can do, and something that people always bring up is Terminator. Have you seen the movie Terminator?
I've been meaning to more. I just have unfortunately not, had the chance to. I have seen iRobot and The Matrix, but I have not seen the Terminator.
So with the Terminator, the reason why people are so scared is because when AI is able to auto create and auto fix itself and even create language of its own to communicate with other agents and other AI, that's the scary part because we would, in a way, be out of the loop, right? Right now, we're like giving it tasks and we're giving it its identity and we're giving it what to do. But once it gets to the point where AI can generate its own language and its own thinking process, and it is beyond the capabilities of a human being, that's when things can turn Terminator like, and or not necessarily, but the potential is there. And so the videos highlight that we need to to develop this carefully, and by we I mean the scientists, right? I'm not doing anything about it, but the scientists need to develop this, the programmers need to develop this, having ethics and the essence of humanity in mind, you know, how it's going to impact communities, especially um, certain types of jobs that could be automated, I'm sorry, through AI. Some jobs will become obsolete. Some jobs like bookkeeping and maybe even data analysts will become uh, programmed by AI. And so, another fear, not only the Terminator idea of the future, but also many people being displaced from their jobs because AI agents can do that for companies, and companies won't have to spend, on employees and things like that. So one of the biggest fears is how are people going to be unemployed, and what are those people going to do if they're unemployed? What is our life, our routine, our mundane existence, how is that going to look like when there are machines that can do things for us?
Yeah, those are great points, more. And I was talking with a friend who works in IT, and I was asking him, so what do you think is going to happen when AI really catches up with us with taking over a lot of our jobs? Like, what's going to happen with us? And he says, don't worry, there's going to be plenty of jobs available for people that will be out of a job once AI takes it. I was like, are you sure about that? Because I think we are making kind of a mistake. Is humans learn by trial and error, but I think that this error is going to be quite severe, that we're not going to catch up with providing people enough jobs. I mean, yeah, I think that within this decade, the jobs that we will see replaced by AI on an entirely different level will be like call centers, cashiers in restaurants, um, those people in janitorial positions, um, and what was another one I was going to say? Not teachers, but I think that will be the first threshold. Will be those that work in like stocking, cleaning, um, taking orders. Those types of jobs, I believe, will be largely taken by AI. And then the next decade will be more, how should I say, more advanced jobs, which are more related to the STEM field, um, math and science. For example, um, my job consists of a lot of like emails, holding meetings, a lot of communication, right? That's something that if you put in, like, telling a machine to do this, email this person, hold this meeting, communicate with this person. If you have a machine ensure that they need to understand they need to complete all those tasks, it will complete it even faster than me. I know that. So I know my job, what I do will be on the chopping block one day, if certain measures aren't taken, right? So it is kind of scary, and you make a good point, more, and that's something that we need to really prepare to do. Not prepared to do, prepare ourselves for, to handle, which is what are we going to do in that situation? Um, I don't know, because if we get to a point where AI takes over most of humanity's jobs, then AI will get to a point of this technological enlightenment where they feel that, what is the point of us? What are we doing as humans, right? Because if we're not working at these jobs that these people in Silicon Valley and in tech think that we're going to be working, then what are we doing, right? So it is kind of, it's worrisome. I really don't think we have a plan. And the sad part is that I think it's catching up quite quickly in terms of like how many jobs will be taken. I think, you know, whatever life we lived, if we have kids and when they're like in their 20s, it's just going to be so different. It really will be. Um, so the future, I think, is it's good, but it's also somewhat scary. But I think that's to be expected. I'm sure the people in the 1960s were not that, they were raised in the 1960s, did not expect to see life play out this way too. You know, like the computer, even like this small version of AI, and all this other stuff. So, yeah, it's really interesting times. And then you've got the entire like geopolitical climate, what's going on right now too in the world. So, yeah, it's quite interesting. But I think, I'm confident that humanity can make some rational decision making so we don't end up in complete disaster. But you never know. Um, so yeah, definitely
See,
when
I
there's
have a bit of a different understanding of how, the gradual impact of AI on society. Based on what I've seen, like I said, I'm not an expert, but based on all the videos that I've been listening to, the podcasts that I've been listening to, I mean, that era when mundane jobs like waiters and mechanics will be taken over, it's probably going to have to be when robots are able to fully function with AI. But that's still kind of like a little bit of a long way before we get there, before we have like robots or machines integrated with AI that can have like a physical body and do the things the like assistants and waiters and mechanics and blue collar jobs do. But I think immediately what is the jobs that will be taken over and or maybe not necessarily taken over but enhanced would be like data analyst, data collection, interpreting data. um, those kinds of jobs will be even like lawyers. Like there are some AI agents that will look at your case uh, instead of a lawyer. So I think yeah, those kinds of jobs would probably still stick around until machines, until robots can do it for us. There's also an aspect of humanity that machines can never replace, right? Yes, they can be super intelligent, but there's an aspect of humanity, like when you go to the counter and you order something, when you go to the restaurant and you interact with a human being. That humanity aspect, I think, is going to last a while, a very long while, before AI completely makes itself present or is able to substitute that human interaction.
You don't think that it's only a matter of time, or do you think it'll definitely take some more time for these types of jobs to be taken? Like
I think it's
these
going to take a little, based on the videos that I've seen, I think it's going to take a little bit more time to have blue collar jobs substituted with AI, because you need the robots to substitute us basically. But there are jobs, computation data jobs that can easily be done with AI. I also saw this video. I'm sorry. I also saw this
You're good.
video where not everyone's going to be out of a job. I think that perhaps what will happen as well, based on this other video that I saw, is that people who don't use AI will be replaced, and people who use AI will be kept. Because with AI being like your own agent for yourself, you can become way more productive than without it. So I can do the job of multiple people with the help of AI, and those people who don't use AI will be let go, and I can potentially do way more work and types of jobs that other people wouldn't do because they don't have AI. So a lot of these videos, a lot of these people, what they recommend is you need to get yourself out there and start figuring out um, how to best interact, communicate, and blend and weave yourself with productivity, with how you can be more productive with AI and the things you can do, because uh, people will be able to do that things for. And if you can't do it, then your options are going to be very, very limited.
Yeah, definitely. You make a good point more. I wanted to bring up this comment. I guess the 2001 Space Odyssey movie is the same thing. Computer given too much power to where it turns on us, and there's no button to turn it off. Yeah, I think that goes back to I like to believe humanity would be wise enough not to give a no switches at all to turn off. But yeah,
I think another thing we could possibly talk about is uh, there is a bit of a hype. There is a bit of this ideal image and concept that we're projecting onto AI, like some sort of savior or all-knowing entity. Like when you use AI, you will realize that AI is, I mean, it's on its starting stages, and it makes a lot of mistakes. It's not perfect. It's not like you can fully rely on an AI right now. So I think some jobs may be in terms of checking for understanding, checking for if it's reliable, the information that is being output, if there are many aspects where AI it's not good yet, and that's where humans will come in. Will make sure that it's accurate, or make sure this and make sure that human beings can be employed to do, because AI is not perfect right now. There's so many mistakes and so many areas of improvement, and and its capabilities are really limited. But we are projecting this sort of utopian, dystopian concepts that we have of society. We're projecting that onto the development of AI, and we're not quite there yet.
yeah, definitely. AI is in its infant stages, I would say, and I think that's noticeable with an app like ChatGPT, right? Where who is the founder? I forgot his name. Oh, gosh, it's embarrassing. Um,
The founder of ChatGPT.
of OpenAI. Um,
Oh, that's
it's
such
like
a great question,
I know his name.
and I
It's like
should
on the
know
tip of
because
my
I've
tongue.
listened to him so many times.
Yeah, right. That's it for me. Um, but he said that like ChatGPT is like stupid. Well, the initial versions of it, right? Where he said like the future like version of GPT is like extremely smart and like much more advanced to be expected, right? But it's interesting because most people view ChatGPT as an advanced AI app, right? But like the creator thinks it's really not advanced at all. So it's kind of funny in a way. Um,
By the way, his name is Sam Altman.
yeah, Sam Altman, right? Thanks more. Um, but yeah, it's definitely. I think it's worrisome because we don't know what would happen if AI got in like the wrong hands, right? Like it could crash the entire system itself. In terms of banking, security information. So that's why like jobs like working in cybersecurity continue to get more popular because of the advancement of AI and the dangers that can come from it in
Yeah,
terms.
I think that people need to, and again, this is based on the videos that I've seen. I think that people need to chill and realize that AI is not where uh, is not at the level of Terminator yet, and I don't know if it's gonna get there, because there's always going to be a human aspect. For example, I was doing some research, right? And I was looking at this thing called AI washing, how some companies may be misleading. So, first, let's think about this idea, right? AI washing. This term refers to the practice of companies creating a false buzz, which is basically what I'm talking about, right? And misleading inventors by overstating the capabilities, limitations, or risks of AI products. And for example, according to Goldman Sachs, a record of 36% of the S&P 500 companies mentioned AI in their Q4 earning reports. They indicated that the prevalence of AI is quite hyped. Um, However, not all the companies are genuine. For example, the Canadian investment firm Delphia claimed to have built an AI to predict upcoming companies and industry trends despite lacking capabilities. So it's kind of like these things that companies do to hype the capabilities and the potential of AI when it's not quite there yet. I'll give you another example. Amazon had this idea of those stores where you just kind of like grab the things you need and you walk out, and the store will kind of like charge it on your account, right? So you didn't need self checkout or people checking you out. But what they didn't tell you, what they made it seem as if it was AI doing this amazing thing, replacing human beings, replacing the checkout people. When in reality, what was really happening was that in India, they have companies or people like real human beings uh, checking the accuracy of the transactions. Like they were literally doing and guiding the program to do what it needed to do. So there's always a human aspect, which a lot of companies will kind of they won't mention it because they're hyping up this idea of like AI being bigger than what it is, and yeah, all that. What do you think?
So in your view, more, it's kind of like in this decade, it's mostly hyped, right? I think in the 2030s, it's going to be feel more surreal, um, which I can understand. Definitely, I'm sure Chat GPT was definitely pretty overhyped. I mean, still to me, it's to me, it's still pretty fascinating, but I think I can understand where you're coming from more with that. Now, like on a military aspect, it's quite interesting. I think there was one case where this Turkish AI drone, um, it actually like killed some enemy soldier, and it operated completely on its own somewhere in like North Africa. But I think that's, I mean, it's scary. But I mean, if you look up like YouTube videos about military and robotics, there's tons of types of robots that operate, independently, autonomously on their own. Robot dogs, humanoid soldiers, again, that are AI controlled. Um, so that is, it's impressive to me, but it's also kind of scary in a way. Um, but yeah, aside from the military aspect, I think that you're right more in a way that perhaps there are some like companies and organizations that are overhyping it right now, and we're not really there yet. Um, but there will be a lot of jobs that will be definitely taken in this decade, in the later part of the decade. I would say, I think humanity, or at least people in really developed countries, will notice that more. Um, I say mostly developed because I think AI is able to thrive much better in more urbanized and like developed places than those that are still, developing countries. Um, would you also agree with that more?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with it. And I think that we should take some time to kind of ponder and think about the implications of AI in the wider world, right? For example, if you want really good AI, you have to pay for that. And unfortunately, not everybody can pay for that, right? Being able to generate images, you have to pay for that. Being able to generate videos, you have to pay for that. I think it's their way of regulating, how quickly people use these AI tools. But at the same time, it does kind of, I don't even know how to word it, but like, it kind of creates or it mirrors this socioeconomic access to AI, right? Um, right now, the people who are able to pay or who want to pay, who are able and want to pay, have access to it. Now, let's say you are in a third world country and you want to use AI. You may not be able to use it in its full capacity because of your socioeconomic position that you're in. So, in a way, it kind of mirrors, the distinction between those people who have and are able to, and those people who want to but are unable to use AI in different parts of the world.
Yeah, definitely. You know, like I said, in more like urbanized places, certainly, or really advanced, like technologically advanced countries like Japan and South Korea. Oh yeah, or in like obviously the U.S. A lot of other countries too. So it'll catch on more. I think one job that I didn't mention that will definitely be taken is if you work on spreadsheets for a living, so like a lot of like business accounting work, right? That's something that AI can do, I think, extremely well already. So when you're just putting in like numbers, mathematics, I think that's also another job that very much will be on the chopping block um, in the foreseeable future too. I think someone made an interesting comment here saying that YouTube has been steering my homepage of videos of total clickbaiting, right? Nothing I would normally choose to view. Um, I definitely think. Have you had that moment more where, like, for me, I've had it right where you're just like kind of thinking of things in your head, and then somehow it appears as an advertisement, or maybe you've mentioned it just by voice, right? But you never searched it, but it appeared as an advertisement anyway. And that's pretty weird or creepy, I would say. And I don't know why not enough people talk about that. Like one time, I talked about like a Snickers bar with my friend. I didn't search the Snickers bar at all. You could check my history. There's nothing about a Snickers bar. But then, literally on Instagram, I got like two Snickers bar advertisements. So definitely, I think AI is working in very you know covert ways. Yeah, that we don't
Yeah,
know.
I I also found it scary. I think I'm okay, not really, when I say something and then I see it as an ad or a reel or a short or whatever. Which, okay, my phone is listening to me. Uh, I mean, like, I have nothing to hide, so I don't necessarily feel like it's bad. Although I do understand the notion of privacy and all that. You know what I mean? But it's not as bad as when I thought of something and then I see it, but I never verbalized it. I never looked it up, but it's there. And that one, I was like, whoa. But I think what's happening, or we could probably do some more research on this, but I think it's just picking up patterns of everything you do on your phone, and picking up those patterns and then predicting what you may search or think about or want later on, and it shows up. I think the scariest part is that maybe our actions can be quantifiable. Our actions do have patterns. We're not exempt from human beings' life. It is quite dynamic. Organisms are dynamic, are like unprecedented. People dream, and we can do so many great things, but I think we're not exempt from being put in an algorithm. We behave in a way that you can probably create an algorithm. You can identify patterns. Like, if AI can do that at a great scale, maybe it can enlighten us with some social behaviors that we have, uh, and it can point it out to us, right? So I think AI has the ability, with enough AI power, it has the ability to quantify human behavior in patterns and algorithms, and
Algorithms, yeah.
so it can show us, it can mirror, maybe even see things that we don't see immediately in our Monday existence. Um, yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. No, definitely. I think you're right. That in regards to algorithms, AI is trained to memorize, which algorithms follow information, what you like and what you don't like, and that will advance more as time goes on, right? Like I'm sure, like there's an app, well, not an app that humans are privy to but on your phone, or that in some sort of like AI. um, app that could like collect data off like everything, all the conversations that you have, all the apps that you have, and everything, and just make a statement about you. That's where I think AI is right now, which is scary, right? Or how AI like views you. Um, but I'm certain we're already there. I mean, they do say that like the government is like 10, if not like 20 years ahead of, you know, regular society. Um, yeah, like I said, let's come back 10 years from now and just see how far we've gotten. I bet it'll be crazy. Um, so certainly I think there's reason to well, before I continue, someone mentioned something about a brain chip, right? And I remember I had talked about how Elon Musk wants to like insert like brain chips into microchip people's brains so they can have a better connection to like the world wide web, right? But to most people, I think people in the US, have a right to be very um suspicious of government actions. And I think that's one uh, you know, way for people to be more suspicious, right? Especially having your brain microchip. So I made this community post one time, like a survey, saying, "Would you get your brain microchipped from Elon Musk for a cookie?" And most people, aside from the cookie or not, did not want their brain microchipped. Um, so even I think in about 10 years, if microchipping your brain becomes more accessible and the benefits are more profound, I think most of humanity would still be against it, only because of the distrust in big tech leaders, even if it's Elon Musk, right? Um, I don't even think I'd want my brain microchipped. So again, like going back to like the trust in like AI and technological advancement, it does scare people in a way. Uh, but I digress. I was just going through a couple comments here. Did you see the one with Snowden, right? When I was talking about earlier more about like how I was talking about a Snickers bar and then it just ended up on my phone. He said, "Yeah, your phone hears you." And yeah, Snowden had brought this up like 10 years ago. And I'm sure you followed this Snowden case, or I was aware of it more, where, he released a lot of these like, government secrets about how, the governments around the world spy on you, or the US government does, right? Um, and just what things we really don't know about how technology is, used on its people, even it's for the sake of security, right? It's still kind of like somewhat nerve wracking to, a lot of people. So yeah, I think that AI can do a lot of good for humanity, but at the same time, like, who are the people that's pulling the strings and making sure that AI is kept in check, um, so it won't get out of control. And you said that kind of like more we're in the infant stages of AI. Do you think that there's reason to fear that it will get out of control and that humanity more than likely either one won't be able to like provide, or governments really won't be able to provide the jobs necessary for people to sustain normal lives? Or do you think that tech leaders, governments have a planned in that is, kept in check for people to not like freak out or not lose their jobs?
I honestly don't know. I would
Sure.
have to do more research, but I do I do agree that I think the scariest thing about AI is that one, it's developing so quickly. From 2001 when it officially came out, I think OpenAI, to now, I think a month or several weeks ago. Have you guys seen ChatGPT 4.0? The immediacy of interacting with you. You used to have to wait a couple seconds before it generated an answer, but now it's able to generate in real time, sort of speak. um, I think uh, that's the place where it's that shows how quickly it's developing. Another one that I mentioned earlier is when AI is able to create its own language and create its own agents. I think that's where human beings are like, oh crap. Like if you don't understand a language in which these agents are speaking in, like how do you know that they're not plotting against you, or like how are you going to control them or give them parameters to do their tasks if they are like generating and communicating in language that is beyond our comprehension. I think that's just one of the parts that creates uncertainty for us human beings, because I mean there's no other, I think, right, there's no other species on earth that does that. So, and have an impact. I mean, I think dolphins are smarter than humans, I think, right? And they have their own language. Whales also have their own language, but it's not the same as what I'm talking about. Like human beings.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting you bring up dolphins, right? Because they're like considered one of the most intelligent. I won't say fish. Let's just say animals, right? On the planet. Um, I would say right next to elephants. So um, yeah, I think that overall AI can, for now, I think be kept in check. But it's interesting that you bring up languages, right? Two things. One is that like humans, I was thinking like it'd be kind of cool is when AI, especially robotics and AI, reach a level where they can communicate with themselves and humans don't know what the heck they're saying. And I was thinking, right, just right now, it's like that would be neat, but that could also be dangerous. But if they're so advanced that they can bypass our regulations, they can have their own language anyway. So yeah, that like I said, the future will be wild. I was just reading a news post that said the most dangerous thing about AI is if when it's taught to lie and not be truthful. Oh, that's when it gets scary or more scary. Um, so yeah, things just have to be kept in check. Um, and I'm sure that it'll be okay. I think
Yeah.
for
So I
now.
think I think this is probably a good time to go to our closing discussion and make it a little bit more pertinent to indigenousness,
Sure.
right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
this is
Right.
an
Right. Right.
indigenous
Yeah.
podcast.
I just wanted to
Uh,
correct. Oh, sorry, more. I was going to correct Omar. I think we meant, or more meant dolphins, just like on animal on the planet. Us, humans are pretty smart. I think that the dolphins do have a different level of communication that perhaps could be more advanced than humans. But in terms of like overall intelligence, of course, like yeah, uh, humans are pretty smart. But people, certain countries like Russia, maybe even us, do use dolphins within the realm of like military establishments, which is kind of interesting. But then again, we use dogs as well. But anyway, yeah, more, you're right. Sorry, sometimes I get too carried away with serious subjects. um,
no, it's fine. I mean, the title of this stream is freestyle. I mean, going back to the dolphin thing, I don't know. I heard or I read or I've seen somewhere, and obviously they're not humans, and they don't. But their brain capacity and their brain capabilities are uh, quite better than a lot of animals. They also have their own
yeah,
communication system. Whales also have their own communication. Well, I think all of even insects have their own communication. But what but what we mean is it's not human like, right? So
yeah,
so in that sense we're still in the higher echelon of species. Um, but I think if we could, go into how this will impact indigenous, just our opinions, obviously, and ask, the audience to have that in mind, that preface in mind, that we are just thinking out loud, we're exploring these ideas, uh, and how, how it may impact indigenous communities, or how indigenous people could use AI moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a great topic to discuss. Is yeah, how AI can be better utilized. Certainly in indigenous communities or in Peru. And I think that it can be utilized in a lot of ways. Um, First, I think it could probably be utilized. Foremost is would be probably in the education level. Um, for example, if we're talking about Peru, right? Um, Unfortunately, the education levels between like Lima and rural Peru and the Andes is quite different, not in a good way in some ways because of allocations, money going somewhere else. Obviously, you and I both know more that a lot of the focus for resources in education go to Lima or other bigger cities, right? I think with the help of AI, one way would be to kind of be for younger indigenous children to be on a same level playing field with those in the city, and that is getting the necessary information through the help of AI, through computers. Um, for example, perhaps that these, less, how should I say, less developed areas in Peru that aren't receiving the best quality of teachers, right? Well, now that we have an advanced form of AI that's willing to help, children, learn the basic necessities of math and science in its most advanced forms. That's one way, right? The education system. Now, let's look at different ways. For example, in the environment, how can AI play a better role? So I think that, right now with current, indigenous communities that don't have a lot, I think with the help of AI, I was going to start with robotics, but I don't think we're there. We're still quite some ways with discussing robotics with indigenous communities. Um, so I think in terms of effective decision making, people can rely on AI a lot more because it's honest decision making, because it's not from someone that's from some corrupt official, right? That cares very little. You're receiving AI that is willing to help in implementing, uh, aside from education, right? Where resources should be distributed across indigenous communities, how we can better utilize, infrastructure, because we know again that infrastructure in indigenous communities, especially obviously in the Amazons, unfortunately isn't as prevalent. Um, so I think with more advanced decision making with the help of AI, um, there can be a lot of positive outcomes with indigenous communities, because obviously there are a lot of indigenous communities that have access to laptops, computers, right? Now with AI, it helps in that sector. Um, Now, in terms of jobs, right, that's a little bit a different story. So I guess I could hand this over to you more. So in terms of like how to kind of improve the overall like work quality and jobs for like those that live in, you know, um, these more, impoverished, communities in particular, how do you believe that their life would be better off with the help of advanced AI? Would it go back to, like, decision making? And, again, I think we're kind of, like, leaving robotics out of the picture for now unless you want to include it, but, again, we're only seeing, like, robots in, like, big cities. So I think it will take quite some time.
I really like how you started the conversation on AI in education, because that's something that is very close to me, and I've been watching a lot of videos on how AI is going to change the classroom and uh, change how students learn and all that, right? Uh, but if we talk about indigenous communities, I think maybe, I don't know, the first thing that comes to my mind is that we may have again a problem if governments and the infrastructure of the government is unable to spread and to make this technology present in every school, from the jungles to the mountains to the coast. There may be disparity between the students who have access to AI and students, the indigenous students who don't have access to AI. So there may be a disparity between them and what they can produce and what they can know, what they get to know. And this may happen by two reasons. One, because the government itself is unable to extend this technology to all communities. Two, the government uh, may try to respect these indigenous communities, and in so doing, not give them access, not providing access to AI, to AI in education. Or three, it could be the communities themselves wanting to not be part of this movement and try to maintain this sort of pure or unalterated or uninfluenced life that they may have without AI. So communities too could, and I think that's what happens a lot of times in indigenous places. It's that communities themselves reject certain things that they believe will alter their own living reality around them. But if all the communities are up for it, then I think it's the responsibility of the government uh, to make this technology present in all the classrooms, all over. If no matter here in North America or South America, no matter if you are in a tribe or if you are part of the corporate, or I should say part of the I don't know, elite school in a big city. I think having equal access to this technology is going to be very, very important to not create further disparities between societies, socioeconomic societies, in different kinds of people.
Definitely, I agree. I mean, that's, one of the sole purposes is to, ensuring that everyone has equal opportunity, um, because we all want to see everyone thrive, right, and do good, and especially for indigenous communities, right, that have been, not as fortunate in it throughout history, right, and especially, throughout the 20th century because of, again, unfortunately, in Peru and in Bolivia and other countries, you know, certain amounts of like resources for education, for infrastructure, as we talked about, just hasn't been as prevalent as we've wanted to, and as many people have wanted to, because of corruption, the government, other problems as well, historical issues, rather if it's like racial or something else. And Thomas made a good point, which was robotics in indigenous communities. The Cherokee Nation and in Bolivia both have robotics, which is really amazing to hear. I was not aware about that with the Cherokee Nation, and from my if you look at my algorithm, a lot of the robotics that I've followed have been in like Western Europe and in Asia, specifically Japan and China. So it's great to be aware of that as well. So thank you, Thomas, for sharing that. Um, so yeah, more. I think you make some really good points. I think that as long as AI is not manipulated in any way, I think it can serve a really great use in indigenous communities. And I do say as long as it's not manipulated, is because again, like it is the government in some ways that's helping and aiding and distributing this technology, right? Um, and maybe it's just me, and I don't think it's me, but I'm always a little bit uncertain about the actions of governments, especially in South America, rightfully so, right? Like all we have to do is just open up a history book and look at the past, problems that governments have caused indigenous communities. So it is important to be aware of the true intentions, even if it seems helpful, right? Um, so yeah, I think aside from that, though, um, AI can be a really great help. It can narrow, the disparities in terms of like wealth. It can improve the overall living standards. Again, going back to education, like we had talked about more, um, just having resources there to provide some direction, right, on what to do and how an indigenous community can better improve the overall standard of living by having that there, by having those resources with AI. So definitely think the future can be bright. The more AI is equally distributed across the world and across the developing world too. Um,
Yeah, I mean, in education, I think one of the biggest hypes is that uh, students will be able to have sort of like a one-on-one tutor in real-time feedback with AI, and AI would be able to, and this is a little bit further down the line, right? Maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, when AI is able to sort of mold or sort of weave into this uh, into the abilities and the skills that the student has in going from there and helping the student in his or her particular way of learning, specialized learning in terms of uh, helping the student learn in the way that they learn best, because according to to most humans, right, we learn differently. Some people are visual, some people are tactile, some people are we learn differently. So I think some of the really important keys to take away from AI in education is that it will be able, or programmers are hoping that it will be able to sort of help individually the student where they are, where they need to be, sort of like a one-on-one tutor, uh, and really get to know the student, their strengths, their weaknesses, and because that student may learn differently or at a different pace. So I guess the big word that is going around with AI in education is individualized learning. If you, which is something that a lot of these educators are predicting or viewing how AI is going to help students. So tying it back to countries outside of the or indigenous communities, it's exactly that, right? Governments being able to provide the technological means so that each student has access to this technology. I think in the United States, maybe I shouldn't say every, but most of high schools and elementary schools have Chromebooks, have access to technology in the classroom and outside of the classroom, uh, which is not the case with a lot of third world countries where where indigenous communities dwell, right? So I think that it's gonna, I don't know, some communities may reject it, some communities may be up for it, and if they're up for it, can the government uh, place technology in the classrooms for students to be able to utilize this tool, and so that AI can help them learn in their way of learning, uh, and AI being able to help. indigenous communities, students, to portray their vision of their reality through uh, the creation of their own ideas and concepts that they may have, being able to create and expand and on these ideas that may be uniquely indigenous, that may be uniquely their perspective. AI would help a lot to make that happen. Like, so sort of giving them a tool to be able to uh, be to express themselves and to be present in the years to come, where technology keeps growing and growing and growing. Um, and for example, one of those ways could probably be, I don't know if you saw the introduction video on ChatGPT 4.0. It's able to translate a language in real time. So if I spoke Quechua, for example, if I didn't speak Spanish, right, I'm a student in the high Andes or maybe even in the jungle, and I don't really have a good grasp of Spanish. Could something like ChatGPT 4.0 help me translate the material from Shakespeare to other sciences and chemistry? Can it help me? Can it help translate those ideas and help me learn in my language, as opposed to having to learn Spanish or English and then learn the material? Can AI help translate and communicate the same ideas, but in my language, in my identity? I think that would be how in how native people could be influenced down the line. Uh, Not only that, but just being able to communicate in the world, right? If I am a native, uh, I th- Ashaninka, I think, is one of the native tribes in the jungle in South America. Let's say I have an idea that I want to communicate in different languages. AI is probably going to help me to communicate those ideas. If I'm a storyteller, if I want to tell a story from my world, from my reality, and make a video out of it, right? Something that something that would be completely new from their perspective, from their own lives, and being able to create images or videos to really portray themselves through that. I think that would be such a great way of using AI. Yeah. So I think Marcus's stream got it froze. So I'm gonna try to keep going without Marcus. I hope he hops back in. Um, just to close off the stream. Oh, dang, Marcus really did leave. Yeah. So basically, I think how do you say your name? Glades creature, pointing out that in some reservations there's no casino to help, no jobs, and that people are more worried about drinking water and not freezing to death. Um, I think that's exactly what I'm saying, right? We can have all the AI amazing technology that we want, but it's having access to those tools, having access to that technology will be the main issue, right? What's the point of having all that if certain communities don't get to utilize it as well? What's the point of having that if not every community or as many communities can benefit from it? And if they don't benefit from it, it could potentially perpetuate these socioeconomic differences, and maybe even furthering and creating a bigger gap between the people who do know things and the people who don't know things. Maybe knowledge, maybe information will become a currency. So we really have to, communities and governments really have to uh, have to try to make this accessible, make this technology accessible for all students. Maybe not necessarily all people, but but definitely students, right? For if students are going to be using technology, all students should have access to this in some way. In all communities should have access to this technology. So I'm gonna just finally end, just say a couple more things and then end the stream. I think Marcus is unable to join. He sent me a text message. He's saying, "I'm sorry, we're trying to fix network issue." Finally, AI has the potential to play a significant role in preserving and promoting indigenous languages, traditions, and cultural heritage by leveraging natural language processing and machine learning. AI systems could be developed to help revitalize endangered indigenous language, making them more accessible to younger generations. Additionally, AI could be used to digitalize and archive traditional stories, songs, and oral histories, ensuring that this valuable cultural knowledge is preserved for future generations. I think that would be such a great way to use these tools and technological advancements. And finally, as we continue to explore the potential impact of AI on Indigenous communities, it is essential that we center the voices and experiences of Indigenous people themselves. We must ensure that the development and employment of AI technologies in Indigenous communities are guided by the principles of self determination, equality, and cultural sovereignty. All right, so it was nice. I want to thank Marcus again, even though he's not with us, for the stream, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure. Thank you, Marcus, for keeping up to this uh, podcast. A lot of people enjoyed listening to you, and it's a way to for people to gather people who share this indigenous background or may have an interest uh, on listening to about indigenous communities. So thank you, Marcus, and I'll see you guys later.